was 4 years old, I watched my mother kill a spider with a tea cozy. Years later, I realized it was not a spider. It was my Uncle Harold.
Oh, let the sun beat down upon my face, stars to fill my dreams. I am a traveler in both time and space, to be where I have been.
Welcome to Franchise Killer, a podcast where we pick movie franchises or wannabe franchises, review them film by film, and see where things went wrong. Or right.
All right.
I'm Reese. You are?
David.
And you are?
Irina.
And you are?
Noah.
A little more excitement there from our for this guy on the couch there.
Noah?
Noah?
And a little more volume, please.
Noah?
No, that was just like
A little more certainty.
weird
of a question.
confusion.
My name is Noah.
All right, we'll take it. And off in a distant land, we have...
AJ.
Awesome. And today, we're talking about Ocean's 12. It's a 2004 film, directed by Steven Soderbergh, who also directed... Do y'all want me to do this whole lineup again?
Might as
guess-
well.
Oh, that was good enough.
Yeah. Sex, Lies, and Videotape, Traffic, Aaron Brockovich, The Ocean's Trilogy, Contagion, Magic Mike, Side Effects, and Logan Lucky. That's not even all of his films, but those are some of his more notable ones. And did I hear you stutter over there, AJ, for a second?
What makes you think that?
I don't know. I feel like you were about to interject when I announced what movie we were discussing.
I could hear your confusion.
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, I was waiting for us to introduce Bruce Willis because I watched 12 Monkeys.
Oh.
Well, you have one thing
Yeah.
right about that.
I think
There
you may have
is
had
a
a better
Bruce
time.
Willis.
Good,
Yeah.
Good job. The movie does, in fact, star Bruce Willis as Bruce Willis, but it also stars George Clooney, Brad Pitt, Matt Damon, Bernie Mac, Elliot Gould, Casey Affleck, Scott Caan, Eddie Jemison, Don Cheadle, Shabo Chen, Carl Reiner, Julia Roberts, Catherine Zeta-Jones, Andy Garcia, Vincent Castle, Albert Finney, and Eddie Izzard.
Man, what a lineup.
That's too...
It's a bunch
let's
of people.
Draw a line. That
Wait,
is-
how many is that?
I don't know how many that is. It's too many, though. It's more
not,
than 12.
It's not 12.
It's at least 15.
If you're keeping track, Don Cheadle did make it above the title on that billing.
What?
Hey,
Good for
Validation for him. That's good.
Yeah,
Even though I would say
we
he
need
had
it.
less to do in this one.
substantially, I would say.
Yeah.
And we got a screenplay this time by George Nolfi, who replaced Ted Griffin, who was on the last one. Anyway, on this podcast, we first go over our thoughts on the film before revisiting it for the episode. Then we dive into the story, break it down bit by bit, and talk about the more significant moments. Then towards the end of the show, we give our brief reviews and numbered scores, along with an analysis on the health of the franchise and whether or not this film hurt it. So you guys, had y'all seen Ocean's 12 before this episode? AJ.
Yes, so when I first watched Ocean's 11, I basically wanted more and binge watched the whole trilogy.
Nice.
Okay. Noah?
No, I hadn't seen it.
Hadn't seen it at all?
No.
Okay. Arena?
I had not.
This is going to be a short section here.
Yeah.
David?
So I watched the first 15 minutes. I think I did get 11 and 12 mixed up when I first watched it. So I definitely started 12 and realized, oh, I don't understand what's happening. And it lost me and I stopped. So technically, no.
Little did you know
Yeah,
that
it
starting
didn't
at
matter.
1 and going to... yeah, starting at 11 and then going to 12
matter.
wouldn't help that problem.
Nope.
So yeah, I'm in the same boat here. I had not seen the second one, although I recognize certain scenes, maybe that I'd caught on TV or seen online at some point, but had no idea of the plot or anything that happened within. So,
Well,
Yeah.
not much change then.
and for anyone that hasn't heard our Ocean's 11 episode, first of all, you should go back to that one first. But this franchise is a big blind spot for a lot of us, except for AJ. Most of us have not seen any of these movies, which I know sounds like sacrilege, but here we are. We're
That's the way it is.
There's worse sacrilege out there.
yeah, we're trying to rectify that problem.
I mean, just because there's worse sacrilege does not mean it's not sacrilege.
And isn't it fun for you to hear our first impressions? I think that's interesting.
Let's tear into it.
Yeah,
gosh.
you wanna get into the story here?
Yeah, baby.
Yep. I want my money back. The money that your friend stole from me. $160 million with interest. I'm not the only person in the world looking for Ocean's 11.
We need a job. We need a high-paying job.
Now we're too hot to work anywhere in this country.
Where are we going?
You're doing recon work on our anniversary?
Taz.
And you are Mr.
Miguel Diaz. What's your name?
Craig.
Greg. Let me ask you something. Do you have safe deposit boxes here?
It's not in my nature to be mysterious, but I can't talk about it, and I can't talk about why. Ooh.
I'd really like to play a more central role this time around.
Okay, I don't even understand what happened in there. What did I say?
The next time I see you, I'm arresting you.
That means it's yes.
One by one, Terry Benedict tracks down all 11 members of Danny Ocean's crew from the Bellagio job, demanding they return the $160 million they stole from his casinos, plus interest. Most of the gang has spent a large amount of their cash, so they decide to pull another heist to meet Benedict's demands. They are tipped off by an informant named Matsui about the location of an antique stock certificate. The crew overcomes several setbacks only to find that the document has already been stolen by the Night Fox, another master thief. Europol detective Isabel Lahiri is called in to investigate the theft. She realizes that she gave Rusty the idea for a key element of their heist during their earlier relationship. Surprising the group at their hotel room, she warns Rusty that they cannot beat the Night Fox.
All right.
Okay, is it just me or does this movie seem a lot goofier
Yes.
than the first one?
I think so.
They tried to add in a lot more humor in the beginning, which...
It's not that big of a problem.
No,
for
exactly.
me.
That's exactly what I was going to say.
Except like Matt Damon's like Jar Jar Binks in this.
Dude.
Like what kind of character turn is that?
Okay,
What-
so
what's-
Man,
he
I
that-
guess, okay,
so-
I think you're right, Noah.
yeah.
I'm just going to tee you off because I talked to Irina and I was like, Noah thinks that Matt Damon's character is different. She goes, it is. And I was like, I think I might not be on the right
Well,
track here.
I get where you're coming from, though.
yeah.
Jar Jar Binks is harsh. He's actually
Yeah.
kind of funny, and I kind of like the direction they took his character in. I just wish it was consistent from
Yes.
the
So-
first.
Okay, that's exactly my thought. I thought he was a more likable character, but it was also different from who he was.
I don't
Yeah.
have a problem with it being different because I think this one is making a change that I had a problem with in the first one was that, and I think we commented last time that we felt we didn't really get much personality from these characters, which we understand being 11 characters, that's a hard ask, but in this, I feel like they tried to add more individuality to the dynamic. So
Yeah.
I appreciated that they just kind of stuck with a personality for him. So.
Yeah. And apart from the him, I actually like the setup of this story in the beginning, even though I don't know, it doesn't really set up a huge heist until later. I do like seeing Terry coming back to get all of them
Right.
and kind of set up this revenge plot.
so-
Benedict
not
coming
revenge,
in.
but
Yeah.
So weirdly, this movie reminded me of that Psych episode with Carrie Elwes as Despero.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Except, like,
I didn't even think of that.
in my opinion, I like the Psych episode better.
It is
because
better.
Psych's amazing. But there are a number of similarities. I don't know if Psych took inspiration from this, but it just kind of had that like an art thief.
I think it's a
kind of
classic
vibe.
I think it's a classic motif with con
Yeah.
artists and stuff
Yeah.
like that, where you have two vying for I'm the greatest of all
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
I like the introduction where you they kind of bring back all the team and you have Terry Benedict visiting them all, but I liked it up to a point because 11 characters is a lot to visit, and I think maybe after 5 that would have been good. and then the rest can be wrapped up in their conversation. But having him show up in a different way for each and every one of them was kind of a little much for me.
Oh, yeah, it was like,
I was like, this, okay,
Yeah.
can we get going a little bit?
Speaking of, I'll throw it forward to like one particular scene that, since this correlates, not to spoil too much, but when they're all arrested, it like does a close zoom in to all of them from far away, like each and every one as they're being taken and just. And it's
zoom,
like the
zoom,
most.
zoom.
This movie was feeling itself.
It
That's
was
the way I
not
would describe
good.
it.
It was like, all right, that's the person I knew was in jail. Like,
I do wish this
12 times.
Instead of going up the Ocean's number, I wish it would be like, oh no, this is Ocean's 10 now.
Yeah.
I just solved their problem. They should kill off a character like at the beginning of this movie, and it's like, that's why it's Ocean's 10.
Terry Benedict comes in and actually kills one of the two brothers or whatever.
Yeah, or you know,
Carl Reiner
there's
has
that
a
whole
heart attack for real.
Yeah.
Well, there's that whole car bomb scene at the beginning. That could have been a cooler setup. I don't think they should have killed Rusty, but maybe someone else could be in that position where it's like, I just killed one of your guys if you don't get me the money in 2 weeks.
This is another one of those scenarios where Benedict comes across as a supervillain, but he has very empty threats.
Yeah.
And
he actually doesn't do anything too terrible.
Yeah.
He also looks bored.
No, you're fine.
Speaking of changed characters,
he looks a little bored.
he changed from the cold and straight faced. Like he was a little. I feel like they upped his goofiness a touch. Like
Yeah.
I don't know, and it's
He
really
looks like a Bond villain.
Wait, are you thinking about when he came in the beginning to
Tess?
Don Cheadle?
Oh, no. Yeah.
And he's like, "What? I think someone's in studio 2." And then they look and it's just the reflection of him playing the piano.
I actually kinda liked
No,
that.
it made me laugh, but it also made it seem like a comical villain.
The part where he lost me a little was when they had him say, "I'm not the only one looking for Ocean's 11." And I'm like, oh, they really have to
Cringe name
I love how
drop.
Jared Harris was literally in just like 30 seconds of this movie. Like
Yeah,
just
I
in that,
know.
as that record producer guy. It's
Yeah.
like, what was the purpose of that even?
yeah with those
Just have him
bleeps.
in there, I
that
guess.
was just out of place. And then
That
Topher
was-
Grace
it
shows
was-
back up.
So how'd they pitch this role to Jared Harris? They're like, you're going to have one string of dialogue in this movie and half of it's going to be bleeped with a phone ringing.
Yeah.
Sign me up.
Yeah.
How many times are you going to do that one, David?
I'm going to do this British accent
Oh
as
my gosh,
much as I can.
I just queued it up again, didn't I?
Yeah, it's going to be an endless cycle of this throughout all of that because he
I'm
pointed
sorry,
it out.
audience.
All right, so we got the introduction to everyone, and then the meetup. I think to me the positive of this film that I think is a leg up from the other is there's more of a natural chemistry between all the characters. I do appreciate some of the banter. I like banter a lot, and I think they all work pretty well together.
Yeah,
So,
I do too.
Yeah.
You do, as I'm still processing this movie, by the way. Like, I watched it 1.5 times because the first time I just couldn't. My head was a pretzel trying to make sense of everything.
Okay.
But
yes.
Only
No,
a pretzel?
go ahead.
No, I'm just saying, like, Irene and I both agreed. We watched it one time already, and we're like, we have to watch this again. Like, one time is not enough times to understand this plot.
Yeah, but you do get the sense that this movie is just being crushed under its own weight of how many characters that it has and how many and they up the amount of plot lines and subplots and
That's the
things
problem.
happening, and it's like,
Yeah.
why does this need to be this needlessly complicated?
yeah.
Because it's the second one, it has to be more than the first.
I think Soderbergh was getting, that's his name, right? Soderbergh?
Yeah.
Steven Soderbergh.
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 Yeah. I think that he was definitely trying to be artsier with this one.
Yeah.
And kind of feeling himself a little bit, kind of in the zone. You know, I heard that he did this with a lower budget. Or not a lower budget, but an equal budget to the first.
It was a
even
bigger
though-
budget.
Was it? Okay, I just saw briefly that it was equal, or
Not
he tried
much
to.
bigger, but a little bigger.
Yeah.
Well,
So
how many years after, real quick?
3 years.
3 years? Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. Anyway, it's just that I think he was trying to be something that it didn't need to be. You know, he wanted something, and he's like, "Let's make this movie my art piece."
I don't know. I think he was kind of flying blind on this one, if I had to guess. I feel like he had a blueprint for the first one because there's an original.
Yeah.
And this one, he's like, oh, well, how do you make a sequel to something that didn't have a sequel? And I don't know, make it try to like up the ante, but also kind of fit in with that
Yeah.
the heist mold that the first one had. I just think the script is undercooked in this one. It's just not fully hashed out.
And
That being said, I did enjoy this film visually too. I do think that, like you said, he went a little more in the art form direction than the first one, as far as the way shots were composed and how he would do flashbacks. I think there's more of a utilization of a actual film score for this one, and I have to say I actually enjoy it. I like what they did.
I like the score too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
I think it has a bit of a kind of like 60s and 70s sort of sound to it here and there, and I don't know. I kind of enjoyed it. It had more energy for me.
I also think in this first section, the characters are more likable than they were in the first one.
Yeah.
Probably that's because of that injection of more humor and goofiness, which a lot of people probably hate about this movie. But for me, I'm like, okay, George Clooney seems like more of a human being in this one. Danny Ocean, they almost try to, dig into his character flaws more by like, he has kind of a heart-to-heart with Rusty, I think, in this section, where he's like, I can't, walk into a room and not think about all the angles and like how you would get something out of it.
Struggling as a retired thief.
Is that why he was talking to the bank clerk in the beginning, where he's like, I was in a bank vault when it was being robbed, and then that was the end of that conversation?
I thought that was really weird.
It didn't make sense.
Yeah. Like what the?
Well, as a
like
bank clerk, I would be like,
oh.
yeah, you're super suspicious, man. Like,
I'd be a little.
All right.
The bank clerk was like,
security.
The bank clerk was like, oh, that sounds scary, and he's like, yeah. And that was it. And then they
He
cut.
just kinda
I'm like,
looks
why
at
did they
him
insert
creepily.
this?
Maybe he wanted to unnerve the guy.
Yeah,
It's like, what is he
I don't
gonna
know,
do?
maybe.
It just looked like he was flashing back to the good old days.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a,
What
there's a
have we
little
not
strange.
talked about in this section?
Isabel.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say
Isabel.
that. She's I like her.
I like Catherine Zeta-Jones.
Yeah, I agree. Her
Me too.
performance was the highlight of this movie for me, and I actually felt a fairly decent chemistry between her and Rusty.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
agree.
I did too. I like the opening sequence too, which I imagine like happened a long time ago.
Yeah, it's kind of like his.
Old flame.
It's like somewhat in the recent past.
Yep.
Like there's
Although-
enough distance between then and what's going on currently.
It's before he got that tribal tattoo on his hand, though.
Yeah.
Okay.
It seems like a late movie plot fix though, that she mentions that she's going. Oh, I'm going to be taking a job in Amsterdam or something like. Oh, okay, they're going to run into each other again.
Yeah.
That,
Well, that's why he chose Amsterdam.
Yeah.
Oh, was it?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah,
okay, never mind.
It
I
was
take
similar
back.
to the
Take it
first
back.
movie where you had George Clooney's character kind of motivated by females, and this one also had that sort of sway between Rusty and.
How did that
Catherine
other guy
Zeta-Jones.
know though?
What do you mean?
How did he know about Amsterdam?
Which other
I always
guy?
forget his name.
Oh, Frank. He was working
Frank.
with him. They worked on
was?
a case together or something, and that's the scenario she's mentioning when she's in bed and saying they found a hair. So Rusty and Frank worked on a job together.
Dude.
And, yeah.
Knowing what we know now, that was probably her telling him like, "Get away while you can."
So
Well-
no, actually, we were looking into this. One of the whole points, they kind of go over it in the end a little bit, is that she was actually testing him. She already knew he did it.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
She was testing him to see if he loved her enough to tell her.
Yeah, so the later
a
she
little
does
different then.
directly tell him, "Hey, I knew it was you the whole time." And he says, "Why didn't you say anything?" And then she says, "Why didn't you?" Kind of a thing.
Right.
Yeah.
And the problem I have with this scene with Rusty and Catherine Zeta-Jones, as well as a lot of the other issues later, is their sense of time. I have an issue with how they pace this and not explain what's happening and the gap between scenes. I get a little lost.
Yeah.
And
It's because they literally have so much going on that they're like, okay, we got to cut some of this out. Like,
yeah, the way they pieced it together really threw me off. And even reading over it, I mean, we had arguments after we read through this. And I sent the meme out to the group. I literally felt like Charlie Day in that conspiracy meme where it's like, it's going here. No, it's going over here. No, wait, I thought it was going over
the
here.
The lines on the board or the
Yeah.
strings.
That's how it felt, trying to figure this movie out.
Okay, so Isabel Lahiri, I'm going to go back to her character and say that I think this is an interesting inclusion to a plot. I like this cat and mouse scenario because I feel like there's more at stake than in the first one. I think that concept of her being in love with a thief and, the thief being in love with her, but she turns out to be a detective is an interesting incorporation into the mix. And because you kind of want both of them to win in a way, but I like the suspense of it. I think that's a fun perspective to have.
She's also one of the actresses that can pull off that femme fatale kind of thing, even though that's technically not what she is in this one. Yeah. I was just thinking, like, if she was the thief,
she could pull it off.
She would pull it off.
Yeah, she's definitely a powerhouse as far as an actress goes. So, I like her incorporation in this.
I do too. I almost wanted her to be the villain.
Yeah.
I always say that about certain characters being the villain instead of the actual villain.
Yeah.
But
I'm kind of glad she wasn't, actually.
That being said, there isn't really a direct villain. There's just a bunch of antagonists to further the plot. So you got the pressure of Benedict, and then you have the kind of competitive aspect of the Night Fox. Mm-hmm. And then you have that cat and mouse antagonist in the female of Lahiri. And so there are 3 different pressure points going on, although Benedict, you can argue, is out of the picture most of the time.
I forgot about him until the end.
Yeah. AJ, I'm kind of curious what you think upon looking at this with a critical eye now.
Well, I'm going to save some of it for an overall because I don't want to jump ahead too far.
Okay.
But I do feel like I'm going to touch on what Reese said a little bit and expound on some thematic stuff. And I feel like Isabella is kind of a vehicle for that, touching on personal identity and can you escape what you're destined to be or who you are, your identity. Like Danny's, always seeing the angles, even if he tries to, lead the straight and narrow life. And with Isabel and her family history and her career choice, she still inevitably ends up in, kind of her genetic disposition, I guess you might say, or that kind of stuff. So I think there's some discussion on that maybe. I think we just get lost in a lot of stuff that's superficially extraneous and also convoluted, but there's not a whole lot of substance behind it.
Yeah.
We can probably move on with the plot before we get too deep into it.
Right.
Yeah, we need to talk quickly before we move on about the kind of little mini heist that they pull here.
Exactly.
And the Night Fox is beating them to it. I actually think this is the most effective heist in the movie. I think it trumps the one at the end, which I think is ridiculous and stupid.
It's because it's not a heist at all.
Okay, well, anyway.
It is.
CG
anyway, talking about the heist.
It's not a heist,
at
it is
hand.
a con.
Yeah.
All right, hey, we'll talk about it later.
Yeah.
But the heist at hand, what were you saying?
No, I just liked it. I liked them scubaing down, raising the building, and I got a taste of kind of what happened in the first movie, but just a different side of things, and I enjoyed that. So that's really all I have to say.
Different from the first, you still kind of feel like in the first film you're watching things a little retrospectively because everything's going to end up fine in the end. I think here I felt a little more tension about, the heist is going on and they're, they found out this way to raise the building and, that's clever, kind of so I agree with you. I enjoyed some of that.
I do like the, worldliness of this movie, the broad scope of it, where we see the history of thievery and cons, the respect and, the inner society of them. They name certain jobs and tactics after this person who pulled it off, and there's that underground society and respect and unspoken rules and that kind of thing. I did enjoy that aspect of it.
Yes.
Yeah, the eye.
I do kind of like the I do like the overseas aspect. I do remember there was a criticism that David was reading about earlier today where someone had criticized this film for seeming just kind of like an excuse to shoot overseas to enjoy the splendor of being in Europe. But I don't know, for someone who doesn't get to travel much, I do enjoy that. I like seeing things take place in a world that is different from mine. So
look at Far From Home versus
like
Homecoming. I mean, it's almost a similar stylistic thing. You go overseas and it's a new experience, new setting.
Yeah.
And
as a viewer, I enjoy that.
They definitely filmed, I think it was 7 or 8 different actual locations, which is substantially more than most. It wasn't even just sets; it was actually on location.
Yeah.
So
I have to say, just looking at the group of the, the Ocean's 12 or whatever, they don't seem very competent. Like,
No, I noticed that too. They seem like it seems like everyone in this movie up until the end is a step ahead of them.
yeah, but it's not even just people being a step ahead of them. It's just their nature and the way they
Get lost in
deal with
luggage.
events.
And they bicker a lot.
And
A lot of it
yeah.
is framing, though. I didn't think they were super intelligent in the first one either, to be honest. Like,
Well, there's
as
a
far as the
difference
way they
between
come
intelligence and competence. Like,
Yeah.
across. I definitely didn't think they were incompetent in this.
Well,
Yeah, but like I'd say I'm a competent person, but I
You would?
can't do a heist like
Yeah.
this, you know?
it feels
They
less
don't seem
planned
that-
because in the first one, Danny's been thinking about this, mulling it over since he's been in prison, doing all that time,
Right.
plotting every detail of it. Here, Rusty and Danny are, floundering at every obstacle. They're like, what do we do? And then
Yeah.
basically just like an epiphany happens and they kind of roll with it. They're still,
Yeah,
grasping at straws as far as financially as well. So
It does add a little more tension having them be, pinched by someone and under a time limit.
Yeah.
So there is that, more of a sense of urgency in this film. So
I think what made me feel like this was less than a heist movie than the other one is that the first movie literally starts off with introducing the characters, what they're good at, showing them in their field, gathering them together, planning the heist, showing how they're going to do it with each other, doing the heist, and then explaining it at the end, and then you feel satisfied. This movie kind of felt like a jumble of them being kind of introduced, not really knowing what they're doing, kind of in Europe, but they were thwarted. Now we're in a competition, but not really, and now we have to come up with this fake plan that the audience doesn't understand till the end, and then it's a mishmash.
Yeah.
So it doesn't feel like you are a part of their gang.
because
Yeah.
there's not the
I
gang
agree
doesn't
with that.
have like specialty, like you said. In the first they all have their role. They're part of the machine, the well-oiled machine. Here it's like you have extraneous players who aren't particularly doing anything to further the overall goal of the group.
Yeah, I agree.
Danny and his gang discover the Night Fox's Francois Toulour, a wealthy French baron. Toulour invites Danny to his villa and reveals that he had exposed their identities to Benedict, breaking the code of silence among thieves, and hired Matsui to inform the crew about the certificate in order to arrange the meeting with Danny. Toulour is upset that his mentor, Lamarck, suggested that Danny may be a better thief than him and challenges Danny to steal the Fabergé Imperial coronation egg first. If Danny and his crew win, Toulour will pay off the debt to Benedict.
All right, so like one of my issues is the fact that the whole crew kind of just goes belly up with Benedict, and they decide, oh, he found us out. Now we just gotta give his money back. Like,
For the sake of this scenario, the writers are kind of assuming that we know this Benedict guy is a really powerful dude, and that's established in the first one, and you don't want to cross paths with him or do anything wrong by him. And so their safety net was the fact that he didn't know who was part of the team. Now he does. I don't think they really give you much to feel threatened by, so I agree with you there. But for the sake of the plot, we'll just assume that he's a threatening, almost like mafia level guy.
Yeah. So
And, yeah.
So are y'all on board with this? I know we touched on how it's similar to Psych, but the whole battle of wits between Toulour and Danny Ocean. Do you think it was smart to put this in like halfway through the movie, kind of like diverting the plot a bit, but then bringing it back?
this I thought was the good part of it.
So you did like the dueling kind of...
Yeah.
I do too.
I think it's a more interesting story than them just making some money for Benedict.
That being said, I don't think they made his character annoying enough. I think the only credits that he's given are Danny explaining to Rusty, or everyone actually, that all the jobs that he's done, which we weren't a part of. And so this is just a really annoying French guy who says, yeah, I'm the protege for Lamarck and beat me. Yeah, that's all I
seen
get.
Vincent Castle play a good guy? That guy?
He definitely reminded me of the choir director, the Glee director from Glee, the show.
The Glee director
Anybody?
from Glee?
Really?
I think
Anybody
you're the
else?
only one that's watched that.
I don't think I've
Yeah, I was going to
seen
talk about
that.
Westworld, but you can talk about Glee. That's fine.
I mean, if he had a song in this, I wouldn't have been surprised. Did you see that breakdancing?
I think there should have been more going on with him as far as them sort of having that back and forth. But that being said, they also included a detective who is following their moves. But so it might have been hard to try and incorporate more of that. But I think his character wasn't threatening enough to me or frustrating enough for me to want to see them beat him.
Or smart enough, even.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a...
There weren't enough scenarios with him to prove his intelligence for me.
Yeah, I don't know if we're supposed to draw conclusions or comparisons of him, born with a silver spoon in his mouth and just doing this for fun because he can, because he's got the wealth already, versus the crew that are kind of struggling financially, or at least that we see them as somewhat average Joes. I don't know if we're supposed to infer that. I mean, he's an amazing actor. I think it might have been just written as he's a little too one-dimensional. I mean, we get the hubris and the ego is his, his essence, but it's a little bit too on the nose, whereas everyone else gets a little bit more character development, or we're supposed to, compared to the first. His is just, if he's kind of the main driving antagonist of this, he was a little too one-dimensional.
Which is why I thought there was an issue with this movie having no real antagonist. I didn't feel like he drove the plot enough, and there wasn't really somebody to root against. I didn't really care if he beat them or not, to be honest. I didn't really feel invested in him as a villain.
Yeah, especially with Benedict, in the backseat.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I forgot about Benedict.
Yeah, and it was just another thing for this movie to juggle, even though I did enjoy it. It felt like a side plot, but also they were trying to nudge it into the center.
Yeah.
There's a lot of plots vying for attention.
Yeah, to me, it kind of felt like they had written this story, but they couldn't figure out how they wanted it to end, and they kept struggling with the idea of how are they going to pay off this debt? Oh, you know what? We should have some rich baron just foot the bill if he's beaten. And how about we let Lamarck let them know ahead of time how to do it, so that he just pays them off in the end.
Yeah, that's convenient.
This is where the complication comes in with Lamarck. I feel like that was shoehorned in pretty heavily.
What was his deal? I still don't quite understand. I know he's the father to... What's her name?
And we're kind of jumping ahead.
And the mentor to
the Night Fox.
French
and to Danny.
guy.
Yeah.
This movie's...
Was he a mentor to Danny?
Yeah. Wait, Danny?
Well, that's what AJ said.
That sounds like you messed up one of the lines on your little map.
I think I'm definitely on board with what happened. I don't think Danny was being mentored by him.
I don't know. At least inspired.
Can we at least say they never brought it up? They never talked about
it.
They
didn't bring it up in there,
taught by him. That never came up.
It's possible they could have alluded to it based on the fact that they know him seemingly pretty intimately.
How far are we in the plot right now? I can't remember.
The egg heist, which we didn't get into, but
we're not even quite at.
You introduced it. You said this is what the wager was.
He's proposed.
Oh, we got to the wager. That's right.
Yeah, the next scene will be them planning it. But
I think why trust this guy to pay off your debt when
because he's already broken the honor code or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I don't really understand the fact that they're just okay. Well, let's trust them.
Yeah.
I guess what else do they have going for them at that point?
I mean, that seems like the easiest fix.
I guess
they were having a hard time with money.
They have a time crunch.
Still a gamble though.
Well, they also stole his art and paintings from him, so they probably have some kind of thing. At least we can get some money from his mansion, or something like that. So.
That's fair. I forgot about them stealing his paintings, which I actually kind of liked that touch as well.
A little back and forth.
We're a little ahead on that one.
So let's go ahead and move on. Danny and his gang begin to plan an elaborate heist to swap the egg for a holographic replica, but the engineer hired by the group accidentally tips off Lahiri to their presence. She arrests each of the crew except for Linus, Tar, Turk, and Saul. Linus comes up with a second plan involving Danny's wife, Tess, posing as a pregnant Julia Roberts in order to get close to the egg and swap it. They are foiled by Lahiri and a coincidentally present Bruce Willis, and the rest of the group are captured. Lahiri is told that they are to be extradited from the United States. Linus is chosen first to be interrogated by the FBI agent assigned to collect them. It turns out that she is his mother, who organizes the release of the whole gang. She points out to Lahiri that she will face consequences for forging a signature on a form to obtain the arrest warrants.
All right, this is the biggest, like...
This is the part.
What?
Yes. this is where the arguments happen.
This is the jump the shark moment, for sure. And
Jump the shark about 5 times.
Is everyone... Are we all clear that the whole Julia Roberts thing is the most insane...
I thought that was so stupid.
So it's one of those things where I could forgive it if it didn't last so freaking long.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think it's fine because it's almost sort of a joke. Like I kind of like sometimes when movies admit existence of certain celebrities that we actually know. It's kind of funny. But in this scenario, they overdid it. It felt like a joke that went on too long.
Yeah.
And then the incorporation of Bruce Willis and that whole trying to juggle the situation to make things work was a bit much for me.
It's like, so you mean to tell me Tess looks exactly like the real life actress in this movie, Julia Roberts, and that Bruce Willis, her good friend, doesn't recognize that it's not Julia Roberts when
Yeah, I
they're,
know.
like, hugging, and that he only starts to realize that it's not her when she's not left-handed or something.
You could argue that he's suspicious the whole time because he tries to call her husband at home at that one moment where he's like, he is at home, right? And blah, blah, blah. So I think he suspects something, but still, like, this shouldn't be happening right now.
They're trying to, like, kind of half play it for laughs, but also have you take it seriously, too. Like, it could actually work.
When it came to Bruce Willis, that's where I actually thought it was kind of funny. There was a part where the doctor came in and was describing the situation, and he goes, "I'm Bruce Willis."
Yeah.
And I was like, that doesn't answer his question. It doesn't do anything other than explain you're Bruce Willis.
There are several points in this film where it almost seems like they're dating themselves just by referencing things that are going on in the current climate. They brought up the Sixth Sense in a little conversation on the way to the museum, and how, like, oh yeah, I knew you were dead since the moment that you were having dinner with your wife or whatever. And you know, it's like trying to poke fun at things that are going on currently, which is kind of a fun
They went too meta.
way to. Yeah, but it's just like you're going a little too far with the joke. We have more important things to talk about here or show us. And
They also reference, like, the year. They're like, well, it'll take, this is going to take until 2005 without a reference to what year it is in the film. I guess you look at what it is at that time.
Also,
but
and I'm formulating this right now. I take issue with a script acknowledging that a person in their movie is so famous that it's just like oh, Julia Roberts, you're going to be playing Julia Roberts in this scene. It's like, because Julia Roberts, she's a big star. It just seems like an ego play almost. Where
I can appreciate it sometimes if it's just one time briefly, like that's fine. That's that's funny, ha ha ha. Because sometimes it's played as a poking at their own ego, you know, not really an ego play, but just sort of a haha, yeah, I get it, I'm a big star or whatever.
Yeah.
But in this scenario, it was just this, for an already long movie, to spend this much time on something I don't actually care about. Yeah. Why did you spend it on that instead of creating a more interesting scene that could have explained the plot to me a little more clearly?
Especially when you already have flow issues with the plot.
Right.
Yeah. So it dragged on something you didn't care about. And can anyone here tell me what the point of that was? It took me a long time to understand why they even did that scene.
Why they did the Julia Roberts
the
thing?
fake Julia Roberts thing.
Oh, because they needed an extra person.
They needed a distraction or just some scenario that would cause them to be arrested.
They said they did need an extra person.
Yes, they did. But
the play that they wanted to do.
So what I've read, the whole point was that Danny and some of them wanted her there. Mm-hmm. She didn't actually have to be there. Danny wanted her to understand what it was like being in their shoes, being a con artist.
No, they didn't.
They didn't need her for this.
Hold on. They never said that Danny actually requested she be there.
Yeah, there wasn't an explicit scene, but
there's a scene where Linus is
he's
talking to the other two guys, and he's like, "Wait, what if we got Tess?"
Yes, and it was
that wasn't Danny Ocean's plan.
Well, no,
all right, hang on.
All right, Irina, go ahead.
So, this part does create a lot of questions. And I think if I can explain this at least a little bit, maybe you guys would be on board. But again, there's nothing really definitively stated to prove this. However, I think that there is something we read where we said that up to the point where... What was the point where everyone knows about the plot with Lamarck?
So that happened, I think...
It's on the 6th day, like 6 days before that
6 days
heist.
before they have to go through that, they end up talking to Lamarck. And
Okay.
that's when they're in on it.
So by this point, the rest of the group has been arrested, and all that's left are Don Cheadle's character.
Mm-hmm.
Forgot his name.
Asher.
What's his name? Yeah.
Yeah.
Him, one of the brothers, and Linus. So it's just the three of them. Linus, however, earlier in the film talked about wanting to be in on kind of the higher up plans and being a part of it. So we can argue that this is him being a part of things. So he has already discussed this with Danny and Rusty, but the other two may not be in on it. So he comes up with the plan, quote unquote plan, to bring Tess over, which would line up with how Danny would want Tess to come over. And if we're going to assume that the phone call he gives Tess is all completely true, he says, hey, Tess, he can't talk right now because he's in a part of the plan where he can't communicate with us. That was true. And we know that it was a part of the plan to get arrested. And then the rest of that was he wants you to be here. And since you love art, he thought, you would love to be at the museum anyway. So this, you can argue, is still Danny's plan.
Yes.
Just to get her over there. So, and Linus is in on it. All right. So if that
And the
kind
whole
of solves some of the confusion.
And something else to add on, she was kind of lied to. So she got to be a part of the plan but didn't realize
She
the
was
implication,
part of it, yeah.
the whole plan to be caught, which
Yeah.
is what she didn't realize that was
Yeah.
the plan. So
I didn't either.
Yeah, that was.
yeah, I know.
Yeah, that was a little out of left field.
As you were explaining that, it sounds like that is a really convincing argument, but I've already lost this movie so far.
Sounds like you
know.
need David
I'm still
Fincher to direct this
confused.
movie if you're trying to get that
You
into.
do. Honestly, David Fincher could probably do a pretty good job with it.
Yeah, like it's at this point, for one, this isn't exactly my type of movie, so I'm really only watching it because we're covering it for the podcast. That sounds bad, but heist movies like this, they're just, it's not my subgenre, really.
Yeah.
So when you throw all this convoluted plotting that barely makes a lick of sense, it's even further pushing me to the wayside where it's
Yeah.
like, and maybe it's my problem and I just need to
So
suck it up and
what you're saying is, this is going back to Now You See Me, and they're talking about misdirection. The whole Julia Roberts scene was misdirection to the audience to make you think this is a bad movie because it's actually complicated.
and actually they want you to think that it's a double reverse because in the end it was something super easy and not convoluted at all.
Yeah.
So it was just the way they played
Is
it.
a double reverse a straightforward?
yeah. But
Yeah.
what I will say is there was a time in this movie, and it was around this time where I just stopped trying to understand it and just let it take me for the ride. And I will say it is still enjoyable to watch.
I would
Yeah.
say it is a better experience if you try not to explain it.
Yeah, but then my brain's also like, it's also a barrier for entry though, because to like a movie and to revisit it, I want it to make sense when I
Yeah.
go back to it.
I get that,
But that
yeah.
initial viewing, I enjoyed it. But this movie's not going to have a lot of longevity for me because I'm going to want to make sense of it and won't be able to.
It's
I
a real
think one of my-
problem that the Julia Roberts scene was the most memorable scene of all the movie. That's what I recall about this movie versus the actual heist part of it that follows afterwards.
Yeah.
Like I
It's
couldn't
like the
tell
Dan-
you if without reading the plot again, like how they did this, but I remember the Julia
Yeah.
Roberts scene, and that's
Just like you remember the Peter Parker dance in Spider-Man 3.
Oh my gosh,
Like,
yes.
That's
Right,
what that's the movie being like, this is what I am.
If you can detach yourself from logic and accept that this movie is nothing more than a ridiculous popcorn movie with lots of holes and you want to stare at pretty pictures, then you're going to have a great time with this movie.
yeah.
Like that's kind of how I feel about it.
Here's my question, and I wonder if anybody can answer it for me. I can explain away a lot with this, kind of taking that extra step and trying to explain what's happening behind the scenes while you're watching it. But my question is with the eggs. So I want to follow the eggs for a moment. When they're making this plan, they create this hologram.
Yep.
When the Night Fox steals the Fabergé egg, he replaces it, right? Because he knows that they will have to steal it at some point.
We have to assume that because they don't show
Yeah, they
him.
have to assume. We have to assume that because I never see it happen. Otherwise, it would be obvious. So he leaves a fake egg, apparently. And he also has a fake egg because they put a fake one in first.
Yes.
Okay. So he swaps a fake egg for a fake egg. He has that one. There's still one there. The Julia Roberts scene happens later when he assumes they're going to try and take it.
The next day.
And they replace it with a hologram?
So they take his fake egg and they put in the hologram egg.
So they put in the hologram, and that, I guess you could say, is them trying to carry out the illusion that he's assuming they're trying to steal it.
I love you trying to figure this out real time.
My question is...
We've talked about this.
When the detective is watching them, she says, lock all the doors, don't let anyone get out, because I assumed she saw Linus take the egg, because his back is to the camera, and it shows him do the quick switch.
I think she saw the movie star, Julia
Yeah.
Roberts, faint and was like, oh,
However-
that's a sign.
However, she faints already, and that whole thing's happening, and she's watching as he switches the egg, and then she says, lock all the doors and blah, 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 and then she goes down there. The thing that confuses me, because I can explain everything up till here, why didn't she search them?
I think it's assumed that her people did.
It doesn't show any of that.
It doesn't
just
show
shows
it,
that this isn't the real Julia Roberts. They're probably part of the team. They don't search her. Then the screen shows the egg kind of flash because it's still a holograph. So they have a fake egg, quote unquote. I don't know.
Yeah.
But they never show you that they hid it or have it on them. They never procure it at any point. So
Plot hole.
I have a
prison wallet.
That's my question.
Wait, what do you...
That's a big prison wallet.
So I think this is just something they probably cut out. I assume that she caught them with the egg and they put the egg back instead of there being a hologram.
It could just be one of those things where they had so much going on that they forgot to include that scene.
Yeah. But you're going to say something.
I'm just going to say I don't think so because there is a hologram still there.
Yeah. They show the hologram.
No, wait, how
and then
much
nothing
later
else.
on do they show the hologram?
I mean, honestly, after this whole scene, they never referenced the eggs ever again.
Yeah, they didn't show it again. So I assume that they caught them, thought that the fake egg was the real egg. So they're like, oh,
I don't
let's
think
put
so
them in jail.
because that is a big plot point to show that they failed and they put it back.
Well, I mean, I think you can assume.
That would be a major oversight.
I don't know. It's not that. Okay, so I know they could have included it and it would have been better, or it would have flowed better. Otherwise, we wouldn't be debating.
Oh, actually, no.
But-
I don't. Oh, I know why they didn't. Because later they reference how they got the egg, and
What do you mean?
and then the Night Fox is like, no, I beat you to it.
Mm-hmm.
So, he's like, you guys got yours, but that was actually the fake that I put in there.
I love how much effort y'all went into trying to figure this out.
This
For
is a
me,
mo-
I was
what?
just like, what?
No, so the thing is, first watching this movie, my first impression, well, I guess we'll talk about this later,
Yeah.
but it's just, I can enjoy it at base value for, oh yeah, everybody has good chemistry, blah, 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 the jokes are kind of funny, that Julia Roberts is a little cringe, but, all right, that's fine, and I can get over that. But then I decided, I really am excited to watch this a second time to see, like, where all the little Easter eggs are for the whole plot, because I didn't know that it was a con. And then I watched it a second time, and I was like, am I an idiot? Because I feel like I'm still missing a lot. I don't know exactly how they pulled this off,
Yeah, even
So-
at the big... I suppose we should just get to it, but the big gotcha moment where they go back and explain everything, it's still just like,
Yeah.
Yep.
Really?
Really, you skipped
but,
a lot of those points.
yeah, let's
Yeah.
continue the plot there. Let's finish it up.
Can I just say real quick, what is Bruce Willis doing at the Fabergé egg museum
I don't know. He's doing rich people things.
Yeah.
Yeah, rich people get to look at
what's he
objects.
doing?
If you
all
didn't
the
have millions
time.
of dollars, wouldn't you go down there?
Well,
I want to look at this egg.
And not only that, why are they so excited to have Julia Roberts check out their Fabergé egg?
It's Julia Roberts.
Because she's famous.
Julia Roberts is coming by. Let's.
And she's from the South.
yeah.
No, he's escaping
way,
a
I
mental
loved that-
hospital and going back in time.
I loved that incorporation of Don Cheadle giving her advice on accents. Like, do you think that was a
I didn't even think
intentional
about it.
Maybe.
joke or just
Because his
even think
accent
about
is
it.
Could have been.
terrible.
It has not improved. In fact, I think it might be worse.
Oh, yeah, but a
he
lot.
didn't have as many
To be
lines
fair,
this
I
time.
didn't notice it as much. Maybe I grew used to it.
Yeah, I
Well,
didn't
they also
notice
didn't
quite as
show
bad.
him like
Yeah.
the
Yeah, he's
entire
in
fair
2
enough.
minutes of the movie.
Sometime later, Danny and Tess return to Tallur's estate, where he gloats at their apparent failure. Tallur explains he stole the egg at night using his agility and dancing skills to evade its heavy security. Tallur's celebration is short-lived when Danny reveals that his group stole the egg while it was in transit to the museum, and Tallur realizes that the only way this was possible is if they were tipped off by Lamarck. A flashback reveals that Danny and Rusty had met Lamarck earlier when he revealed his con intended to humiliate Tallur, and at the same time to restore to himself the Fabergé egg that he had stolen years ago. Tallur is forced to admit Danny won the bet and gives him the money for the debt. They pay back Benedict and promise not to perform any more heists in his casinos, as Tallur is in the background spying on Benedict.
Daddy
Okay,
issues.
first, let's get it out of the way. This dance.
I know. I hate
where
it
to
so much.
start?
The moment,
was
the
too
moment
long.
it started, I automatically pictured it without the lasers.
Yeah, I did
I was
too.
like, oh, yeah. It was like, oh, this. I could tell the director was like, okay, just do this really cool choreographed dance, and then we'll CGI in the lasers
Yeah,
to just
exactly.
And there are
miss you
several
barely
times
everywhere.
he gets hit by lasers. That's
I
what
know.
makes it
Yeah,
fun.
That's
I
what
noticed that.
I was watching that too, and I was like, "There is no way he cleared that laser. There's
So,
no way."
Irene and I watched a 3-minute video on all the things wrong with that laser scene, which
Well,
is just so comical.
It was more like someone just saying all my questions about the laser scene, and it was just this guy naming off things. He was all like, "Why are the lasers blue? All the lasers I know are red." And doesn't a laser need some end part? I don't know what it's called, but to tell whether something has broken the laser? And wouldn't it be triggered by other sculptures? Is it just trained to not detect other sculptures? And
Yeah,
just
if you look on
people
the
passing?
wall, it just
Yeah.
comes out of nowhere and it moves around. How does
I
it
mean,
move around?
Yeah,
That doesn't make
lasers in
sense.
general are a terrible security system because you have ultrasonic fields that are broken. That's not real security. It's just
Yeah.
done for movies. But it was just
Yeah,
funny that
and-
even in the movie version of it, he is tripping the lasers and nothing happens.
Yep.
It was literally like a Matrix moment in a movie that did not need
Yeah.
anything even close to that.
It's,
Another thing.
Yeah, go ahead.
Where are the cameras?
Yeah,
That was
exactly.
actually- that was another
that was
thing.
another question that he had.
Where are the cameras? Why are the lasers only in this one hallway?
Yeah.
Not anywhere else.
That's another thing he
Just-
brought up. Yeah.
He also, if you look at the scene again, guys,
How did he break in?
if there's actually walkways around those statues that you can see, it's like, why didn't he just walk around? Because obviously the lasers aren't there.
Don't you think it'd be a little more
ridiculous.
prudent to have your just fixed lasers that are all around the egg?
Yeah.
That just like an unbreakable
Yep.
intersection of layers of lasers that aren't moving.
For
You
it,
actually only need one. And
This is-
it can section off once you take off.
You can go
the
right
egg.
through the thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
to me, this feels like such a cop out because for someone that has claimed to do so many cool things in his past, this is all I got was a dumb break dance where he's not even wearing a mask. And he basically has to avoid the goonies that Danny has who are already pretending to be distracted for him to get in.
He seems
I
kinda
don't
like a buffoon at
I
times
know.
too.
Yep.
And I was just like, this is not impressive to me. I wanted something more.
And yet he's the pupil of the legendary Gaspar Lamarck.
I know.
If I
But
didn't know better, it'd be almost
yeah.
self-referential humor, just satirizing it, but it's not.
Yeah. No, it's not.
I wanted to see Albert Finney do a little break dance that he taught him.
I will say, though, despite all this, I still had a relatively good time watching the movie.
Yeah, I did too.
Yeah.
And
It's fun. It's not... I don't think it's really meant to be thought about too
It
hard.
is light
but
and
it's fun.
breezy. I'll give it that.
Yeah.
I wasn't yawning when I was watching it. It's fine.
Well,
I
that
was
makes
because it
one
was
person.
4 a.m.
You were bored by this?
I after it got about halfway through,
Yeah.
it lost me and I started dozing off. And so that's why I watched it a second time, because I was like, maybe I just was in and out and I didn't realize it. And the second time, I was just so done with this movie at the exact same point it was the first time. I thought I was stupid the first time, and I realized, no, that's them.
Oh, I also love that Bernie Mac's whole role in this is just basically sitting
being in prison. Yes, I was like,
what a
really
meaty role.
So basically, he got to film 2 scenes where he's being arrested and put in prison, and then being taken out of prison. That was
not
it.
a good look. Maybe.
Yeah.
Just gonna say that. So, I guess let's talk about if any of this, the reiterating of what they did to dupe Toulouse.
Sorry. I don't know. Francois Toulouse.
Night Fox.
Night Fox.
Did any of that make sense to you guys? And would it have been more interesting if they just showed them do it?
Yeah.
Or did you like the...
Well, they did sort of show some of the things they did. Like, they showed the egg swap later.
Dude, I'd rather see more of what they did than the stupid breakdance.
Yeah, because you have a lot of these just disconnected scenes that you don't know what they mean.
Yeah.
And then they're explained retroactively. I don't
Yeah,
like
the only
that.
one.
All we did was create a fake fight, swapped the bags that happened to look exactly the same.
No.
And then
That we already knew was going to be there.
Yeah, we spent all of this money on holograms and fake Fabergé eggs. We could have just, paid our debt. But it's like David said, like, this isn't a heist movie, it's a con movie, and they're trying to con the audience to have a twist.
And they conned themselves out of money, too. Like, they're
Why couldn't they just take the egg from the train, and once they had it, just go to the Night Fox and be like, hey, look, we beat you? Couldn't that have just been it?
I don't know.
Also, and maybe this is me just not really liking the heist movie genre, but anytime they break out the diagram and they're like, and then we're gonna do this, and then you're gonna sneak under the thing, and then you're gonna, jump over the wired fence. My eyes glaze over.
I don't know, didn't
when
you
that
say you
happens.
liked it in the first one?
I kind of, that one, here's the thing. When you lay it out to me in a concise way that, kind of makes sense and I could see how you're actually going to do it, it works better. In this second one, though, it just seemed like it's like we have to have a scene where we kind of show how they do it, but they didn't really care about it.
It's just a checkbox for a heist movie.
Yeah.
This movie's version of that, kind of rehash what they did that was so sneaky and good was just not really satisfying. The last one was really satisfying in that, he literally told them to go out and they were just the bomb squad or bomb defusal squad, and they were like, "Oh, sir, I don't recommend that you do this."
Yeah,
And it attaches at all the points that it needs to. But then this one, it just suddenly is revealed, oh yeah, they raided an envoy pretty much.
Right.
And now they have it.
Yeah. To explain what we're all feeling, it's kind of like you were promised a heist film. And I don't watch a lot of them, but I'm pretty sure that the satisfaction of a heist film is getting to see the heist and having the satisfaction of knowing, yeah, we duped you and this is how, because we're so clever. But in this one, it's Lamarck basically gave you the answer. All you had to do was a quick swap. And that was summed up in 5 seconds.
Yeah, I didn't like that either. It should have been them that did it. There shouldn't have been involvement with Gaspar.
Also, the whole reason Lamarck did this, and everyone I'm sure is probably wondering at this point, why did Lamarck have them do this? Mm-hmm. The whole thing was so he could see his daughter. Why did he need them to do this to see his daughter?
It was to get the egg and to get his daughter.
Yeah, he wanted that egg. Oh boy.
He stole the egg prior. His wife made him put it back. His wife being, the straight-laced mother of Isabel. And then he's like, well, I actually really want that egg. So he's like, okay, we'll
really want that egg.
Get it back. And also, let's shame my egotistical pupil a little bit, take him down a notch. So.
And then also maybe want to see my daughter?
Maybe.
Well, to be fair, at the end, he's like breaking tears, although maybe those are crocodile tears.
I'm pretty sure all the things I read said that he specifically wanted them to bring his daughter to him.
He definitely did want that, but he also wanted the egg. But I think they mentioned it earlier where, I don't know if it was like a restraining order or something with his wife. She demanded that he never see their daughter.
Yeah. Well, he's supposed to be dead because he faked his death.
He's supposed to be dead.
Yeah. But So yeah,
She's ridiculous.
I like to imagine that Drake meme where it shows Lamarck when it comes to his daughter, and he's like, nah. And then it's like, but my egg, though. And he's like, Fabergé egg.
You should make
it's
that
a
meme and put it on our Instagram.
Pirates of the Caribbean theme where Will's like, my father's a pirate, I'm not a pirate. And then Isabel's not a thief, but she's a thief because it's in her blood.
Yeah. I don't like that so much either. I think, are we at the end yet? Did we finish?
Yeah, we're at the end. We're all the way to the end.
I enjoyed her struggle more, and I kind of liked that, back and forth where she's... I feel like, in a way, I can almost explain that she became a detective to sort of get close to her father, because she has this obvious fascination with thieves, and she knows all about them. So, like, that's as close as she can get, but also be straight-laced at the same time. But the turnaround is a little too fast, and she's just living it up with a bunch of thieves now.
Oh,
I don't
was a little
get
weird.
that, especially after spending so much time being part of a police force. That doesn't make sense to me.
It's kind of a
Brad
strange
Pitt,
movie.
Okay. I have so many issues with this franchise, though. There's what is hugely different about these characters from the beginning to the end. Like, what progress have they made?
I mean,
Rusty got the girl.
Wow, yeah, that's true.
Rusty also has a tattoo somewhere he dares not mention.
I thought it was just the one on the hand.
Yeah, I thought that's the one they were talking about.
No.
They were talking about...
I paid attention since you brought it up again.
Yeah, so he mentions that he went to see a doctor about
and
it
because
getting
of its
removed.
Location, got it.
Yeah, because of its location, he'd rather it not be.
Gotcha. All
removed.
right.
So
all right.
where else could that be?
Yeah. I don't know. I didn't think about that too much.
His neck. Yeah, clearly a tattoo on his bare neck.
All right.
No, but I'll get into it on the review portion. Yeah. But any closing remarks on the story here before we move on?
No, not really.
If it feels like this story just came to a rushing halt, then that's how I feel too.
Yeah.
I feel like they wrapped it up, and they thought it was like a nice clean bow they were putting on it, but it just had me asking more questions.
To me, it felt like the ending for another movie, not this one.
Yeah. All right, so that wraps up our story portion of the podcast. After a quick break, we're going to get into our brief reviews and numbered scores, and then we will talk about what critics thought, and then get into some box office and talk about the franchise as a whole. Yeah. So, yeah. Welcome back. We're here to talk about Ocean's 12. As if y'all didn't know that already. I noticed that I always do that, and I say we're here to talk about Ocean's, whatever the movie we're talking about.
Maybe somebody is just tuning into the end to hear the box office.
Yeah, maybe they looked at the timestamp that I never post on the thing, and they go exactly to this point, and it's like, oh, they're talking about this movie, cool.
Well, 4 out of 5 of us are talking about Ocean's 12.
Dentist approved.
And the other one's 12 Monkeys.
Yeah, so that stands to reason that about 1/5 of our population also
could use for a reminder.
Yeah.
Okay. So, David, you've got our scores for the movie over there in the little bowl.
I might.
Pull them at random.
All right. For score, Noah with a 5.0.
5.0. Right. Yeah, I think this is lacking in a number of areas. It's got a number of problems, but at the same time, I find it enjoyable to an extent, so I can't really detract all of it. That said, I might have to take it down.
You're going to take it down even more? You can't do that.
By a 0.5.
Oh, wow.
Wait. No, I'll leave it. It's close. It's close enough. I think it's fun enough to be a 5 and bad enough to be a 5 as well. So
it's fun enough to be a 5 and bad enough to be a 5.
Well,
there's your Rotten Tomatoes quote review.
Well, there's the positive side and the negative side. You got a bit of both.
That's true.
So glass half empty, glass half full.
As all things should be.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, I'm going to try to uncrumble this score. Irene, do you want to just save me the time and just tell me?
Yeah, I actually think I'll change this score too, because originally I gave it an 8 because I didn't... The thing was, I watched it and I still found it fun, because I don't really watch heist films, so I don't have much of a basis for comparison. I haven't seen a 10 for heist films. So, but I'll probably bring it down about a half point. Let's do a half point. I don't want to do a full point.
Is this an Irina first changing the score?
No, not a
the
first, but it's been a
okay.
while for sure. And my reasoning is like I said, I did enjoy it at base value. As we've been nitpicking it, I realize there are so many issues with it that could have been easily fixed. So I can't give it the same score I did the first one.
Are you telling me the 2 hours we spent trying to analyze this plot didn't convince you?
No. Oh, okay. So to back this up, I do have a problem with the plot for sure. But if I'm still enjoying my experience, I don't have the heart to give it something incredibly low, you know?
And a lot of craft did still go into
Yeah,
it.
there are a lot of elements that I really like about it, and a lot of it is little encounters between characters where I think something was filmed really well, but it felt like a hodgepodge of different kinds of films being kind of strung together. One of the issues with this is trying to get a grasp on what time it is. Like he puts a whole bunch of little texts to kind of keep you up with what's happening. Like, oh, this is 6 days before the heist, 5 days, but who's paying attention to that? Like I
That
read
didn't
them,
really matter.
but they don't really help me frame a timeline necessarily. So looking back on this film, I don't exactly remember when things were happening and with which people. So
Yeah. If anything,
yeah.
them reminding you like that makes it even more confusing.
Yeah.
Because there are times when that text would pop up and I'd be like, oh, I'm supposed to be paying attention to what day it is.
Yeah.
If you just have this increased sense of urgency and maybe a character at one point says, okay, we got 3 days or something like that.
Yeah.
I feel like that's all you really need.
There are a lot of issues with writing and the plot and following up with certain threads that just they didn't feel they needed to explain for some reason, but I think are incredibly necessary. That being said, the things they did improve on were basically interactions between characters. I do like all the characters involved, minus maybe the Night Fox, who's just kind of a nothing.
Yeah.
And Benedict, who is also a nothing. And incorporating the detective was an interesting addition, although her conversion is a little quick for my taste. But that's pretty much all I have to say. I think there's a lot of artistry involved that I did appreciate, and I see kind of his artistic vision and the way he films things being incorporated here. I just think the plot is severely lacking, and that's all I'll say. Maybe not lacking, just overly filled.
Yeah. Overstuffed.
Yeah.
All right, next up, AJ with a 5.5.
All right.
So I feel like Soderbergh here kind of tried to do a little reversal from the first movie. We critiqued the first movie for not focusing on character and just having a story. This one, he's sacrificing story for a little bit of character depth and a little bit of style. I mean, not that the first one didn't have style, but I feel like it sacrificed story quite a bit too much. And how complicated the timeline is, and I think it's all just an attempt to try to get one over on the audience, but there's no substance, behind the superficial twists, and it just doesn't flow well, especially, like I said earlier, the Julia Roberts scene is literally the most memorable point of this movie for me, and I couldn't tell you what happened or how it happened.
And memorable in not a good way.
Right. And, like Irina, gave us all these tidbits of, this is kind of how things happened before and the timeline and some little cool things that, I honestly couldn't care to actually parse this movie out because it just, it didn't deliver. The saving grace of this movie, in my opinion, and we talked about protagonists and antagonists, and I actually feel Isabel's character is the protagonist of this movie, and I don't know that that's intentional, which is an issue. And I will echo Irina in saying her conversion to the dark side, so to speak, was just too abrupt. There are too many deus, or what's the Latin plural for deus? Dei ex machina.
Yeah.
in this movie with just too many, okay, so this is saving us, like Linus's mom and the instant conversion of, and then Mark just saving them all. Like, what was the point of this?
Gaspar too.
And we're not even just fully exploring themes or, character growth and stuff like that. So it's like, it was fun. And so that's why it's above a 5. I just feel like Soderbergh in this movie kind of missed the forest for the trees, focused on too many details that didn't matter and really just sacrificed story, which is, the most important part. It was fun, but I probably, it's definitely a low point of the trilogy.
All right. Next up, Reese with a 5.0.
Hey.
Yep, I am on the same level with you there, Noah, and pretty much you too, AJ. I think my issue with this movie, apart from me not liking heists, which I've said for the third time now, it did retroactively make me think that maybe I was a little harsh on the first movie, because this movie fumbles the ball in so many other ways. I just don't like how muddled this movie is. The first one was complicated, but I understood what was happening for the most part. This one's complicated, and you can't tell if it's because of it not actually making sense. Like, there's moments where I'm like, am I just stupid? Or
I had that thought a lot in this.
And I just didn't care enough, in addition to that, to try and actually figure out what was happening. There's movies that are complex, say like Blade Runner 2049 or Blade Runner, that they've got, it's a detective story, but I'm interested in, what's...
You feel like you can always learn more.
Yeah, it's complicated, but I'm like, but I want to understand all the layers of this.
Yeah, the complications have meaning.
This one is just like, this is just needlessly convoluted. And yeah, they're throwing a lot of things at me to try and, divert my attention. And yeah, that's entertaining. But the end game is like, I had a decent time, but what was the point?
At what cost?
Yeah. But and in addition, this is another problem that carries over from the first. I will say the characters, they are more engaging and less hollow than they were in the first one, which I know people are going to be upset with me for saying that, but I really thought they were almost all of them were cardboard in the first movie. This one, it's an overcorrection in the other direction where it's like, but now they're like all really goofy and bickering.
Only some of them, though.
And relatable.
Yeah, and they come off as incompetent at times, too, even though they do ultimately win out by the end. And again, from the characters at the beginning to the end have also barely progressed. Like, they're in kind of the same, like, they completed the heist, and now one of them has a girlfriend, and cool, that's all your character arcs there.
Yeah.
So it just seems like a pointless sequel that was written on the fly, and there was not much of I could be completely wrong, but it just doesn't seem like the passion to make this one was there that was for the first one. And I think that's mainly because there was no blueprint for the sequel to follow, and they were kind of like, how do we live up to the original? Or maybe they were just, getting high off the fumes of the original and thought that they could do no wrong, so they just like shot from the hip. I don't know, but it's just
hip fire can be effective.
But it's just a less successful sequel, and I was pretty disappointed by it, even though I didn't really care for the first one to begin with. So yeah, I'll stick with my 5. It's still entertaining. That's why it gets that 5.
Yeah.
Oh, and this had a jump the shark moment, which the first one never did. This one has 2 of them.
Yeah.
Like the laser dance and the Julia Roberts scene.
Laser dance.
Yeah. So go ahead. Last review. David.
All right. So it's going to be really hard to follow because I echo the same as all of you. I am around a 6. I was between 5, 6, 5.5.
David, you're a 10.
Oh.
Not a 7?
Sorry. Wait. What does that remind me of?
David's taking a long sip of water.
No, that's tequila.
Get it out, guys.
Let me remind you guys, David doesn't give a 7 very often.
Do you know?
Yeah.
Do you know what didn't drink water? The Yetis that played football in Tomb of the Dragon Emperor.
Yeah. Wouldn't you imagine they would get a little sweaty and thirsty after all that football
They lick
playing?
icicles.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
Damn, are they rewatchable?
He's checking his watch.
They have hair.
Anyway,
unlike David.
All over their bodies. Well, David's got it everywhere.
What I'm presuming is about
head.
to happen is that you're going to give Ocean's 12 a lower score than the 7 that you gave Tomb of the Dragon Emperor.
I plead the 5th. I am giving this one a 6. I'm standing by it. It's very, very similar to what you and AJ were saying, and Noah, sorry. It's just on the higher end.
Yeah.
I'm leaning more towards the cinematography, bumping up the score a lot more.
Is it like a desktop picture in every frame?
I actually saw in an article, they described it almost the exact way I did. They're like, man, the cinematography was really good. And if you take a snapshot of any frame, it's actually, and I was like, that's my line.
Yeah.
You're right. They stole it from you.
So, I mean, the vision in this is really good.
Yes.
So I think that's what carries the score for me. Most of my fun happened in the first like 30 to 40 minutes. And then after that, it almost completely lost me. You know, I don't know if I could ever watch it past that 40-minute mark. That's when it starts to try to figure out a plot, and it doesn't. I think I felt kind of like Matt Damon when they were seeing Matsui in the beginning when they're talking in code.
Dude, you are Linus in this one.
You are.
I could be
Yeah,
Linus.
whenever in that plane when he gives the thumbs up after talking to him, like I could do it.
I want a bigger role.
The double thumbs up. That's you.
Reese.
That's how he got into this podcast.
I think I could be a bigger role in this podcast, man.
You could?
Can I
try
be
hosting.
just let me be a host.
Just let me take a nap, please.
Come on.
You got it. You
I
got
can do
it. Just get over to your seat.
Okay. Thumbs up.
I don't even remember what happened in there. What did I say?
It's just a movie that I can't get on board with. And 6 is a high enough score where I would watch it if it was on TV. If someone forced me at gunpoint to watch a heist movie, I might pick this one if I was bored enough.
Gunpoint? That's kind of harsh.
If someone forced me at gunpoint, I might pick this one.
That is a little extreme, but go ahead.
So
As if they give you a...
so
imagine
going
someone
on,
comes
on,
up...
on your rubric.
Go ahead.
Like if it gets below a 7, that's an at gunpoint movie.
I have no frame of reference.
But now I'm imagining someone at gunpoint. David, you will watch a heist movie. All right, Ocean's 12.
Put it on.
Wait, no. Now you see me too.
Wait, why?
Just sitting through it going, no. Where did the egg go?
I'm suffering, but don't shoot me.
And thus concludes Ocean's 12.
Okay, let's move on to critics.
You want me to crunch those
All
numbers?
right.
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah, crunch them,
Irina, did we
Major.
land on a 7.5?
Yes.
Okay. So that gives us a title average of 5.7, and that puts it squarely between the two Now You See Me movies. So the first one is at a 5.8,
Interesting.
and the second one at a 5.6.
I feel like some people might want to beat us up for that.
Actually, I don't
want
think
to beat
so.
us up.
Really?
No, because a lot of people hate this movie.
Okay, all right.
This
you
is a
look at
very
reviews
unpopular
now.
movie.
I feel safe now.
I've-
Maybe since I gave a 7.5, I'm not.
I was
as
actually,
safe.
believe it or not, I was hopeful for this movie because I had read that people were kind of re-examining it recently, and it was at the top of some people's lists. Which
I
thought-
saw that too. Pretentious people who think they understand it.
The apologists for this movie basically chalk up the criticism for, well, this might be critics' reviews. I'll just preface you that saying that people saw Ocean's 11 and loved it, and they were disappointed by the second one because they're expecting more of the same.
Yeah. All right.
Well, it wasn't more of exactly the same, that's for sure.
Yeah.
So,
That's too bad.
all right, let's move on to what critics thought. So, this movie on Rotten Tomatoes has a 55%.
Oh, wow.
With an audience score of 60%.
Hey.
So that's like barely on the fresh level for audiences and rotten for critics, just so you know.
Yeah.
Metacritic, 58 for critics, and audience score was 6.9. And on IMDb, which is an audience-based scoring site, it was 6.5. So really, mixed reviews for this one across the board. I'm actually surprised it wasn't even lower than that.
Yeah.
Because I think this is like just a big step down from the first one. But
To quote Noah, it's cringe.
Cringe.
let's move on to the box office.
Okay.
So this movie cost $110 million, which is, I believe, $25 million more than Ocean's 11. I think Ocean's 11 came in at $85 million.
Yeah.
It's not too
I'd
bad.
like to know how much of that is star power.
All of it.
Almost all of it.
Almost all of it,
I would
yeah.
imagine. And probably the on-set location at Amsterdam might have cost something as well.
Yeah.
So this was 2005, you said?
2004.
2004.
So yeah, 2004 released
This is
in
the same year as Pirates of the Caribbean.
2003 was Pirates of the Caribbean.
Okay.
Yeah, close enough though.
So
You're
just
close.
a year.
was 2004.
This was December of
So-
2004.
Yep, December 10th, 2004.
All right.
Its competition was Blade Trinity. So with that, how much do you think this movie did worldwide at the box office? That's all the hints I'm giving you.
All right, Noah.
My instinct is
we'll let
to
you
say
go
it did
last
pretty
again.
well.
All right, Noah. We'll let you go last.
Well, I'm just saying that because you always get boxed in on the box office.
Well, I'm okay. Either way, I get
No,
first or last. You get
we'll let
boxed.
Noah occupy the middle of the pack this time. Let's go with
That could be a song.
AJ
really
first.
Okay, I think I gave the first one like 325, if I recall correctly. And I feel like there's hype behind this because of the success for the first. So I'll go up a little bit, say 350.
350. Okay, David.
This movie is so bad, and I know I'm going to lose this, but I don't think it made what it cost. Or at the very least, it doesn't deserve to make what it cost. So I'm going to go with 1 million less. So what it was, 110. I'm going to go with 109.
So you're look. You
Whoa.
can go with that.
Look,
but
I'll
your-
lose.
Your
That's
belief
risky.
Your belief is that they saw that it made less than its budget and then decided to go forward with Ocean's 13.
I'll lose this one because I hate it.
Nah, he's
I
stubborn.
mean, people go to see the star power, the ensemble cast alone, whether, you know.
Yeah.
I'm highballing it with a 420.
420.
I got
You're
it.
high. I got
Nice.
it. Irina.
Let's go. I think I'm on maybe Noah's side, but I'm gonna go 375 just to fill that.
Okay.
space
And what
in.
was yours, Noah, again? Sorry. Oh, yeah, 420. Sorry. AJ, you are the closest. Dang it. 363 million.
I was only a little off. I was pretty close.
Irina's pretty close.
Yeah, that's pretty
that
close
was the
too,
most
but-
ill-advised guess you've ever made.
It honestly was.
Honestly, like
I was just mad at it.
like AJ said, even if this was a bad movie, I think people would go to see it just to see all of these actors together.
Yeah, I know.
Reese, you
I
said
knew
it was
going in.
you said it was
363 million.
363,
And AJ said 350.
and Irina said 375,
Yes.
which is 12.
Oh.
Wait, what?
Irina won.
375?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's like Irina narrowly
Okay, well,
wins on that one.
it's a little bit of a cheat because whoever's getting to guess last kind of has.
No,
It's
you.
not that much of a cheat because
that's
neither of
not.
you knew.
Math is
pretty
next.
spread.
So, Irina, I'm sorry, I retract that. Retract that.
I wanted to make sure Irina
I'm
got
the
some
winner
good
here.
credit.
Yeah, you won it.
Whoa,
Good
look
job.
at
You get
that.
a gold
Money.
I
star.
never win
Sorry,
at
AJ,
money.
we're gonna have to take that medal off.
It's
your
fine.
name.
I'll just throw a fight on a train about Boston Red Sox versus New York Yankees.
And this year's
Now I'm on his kill list for mentioning it.
and this year's Oscar goes to La La Land.
Yeah.
Oh, wait.
Oh, sorry. It's
dude.
actually Moonlight.
That was the
hate
most
that.
cringy moment I had ever seen.
Okay, Steve
Okay.
Harvey.
All right. So obviously, with this box office that was above its budget by over 3 times, it
Dang.
was
David.
guaranteed a sequel.
Stop looking at me.
He's not.
Yep.
was.
So this is a no-brainer. It's getting a sequel. It was still a massive success.
Yeah.
I don't think people hated it quite enough for critics and audiences to kill the franchise.
I love
Yeah.
that statement. I don't think people hated it quite enough.
Well, like I don't see. It's not a franchise killer
Yeah.
in the critical sense. Like it's
Yeah.
not good, but I don't think it's like awful. Like
Yeah,
I don't
it
think
made money.
It's fun.
Yeah.
I do think people were dazzled.
Yeah. The franchise took a hit on the chin, but it made a lot of money, and it was like, okay, maybe if Soderbergh is on board and we can get all these stars to come back, we'll go for round 3 and we can kind of rectify some of the issues of this film. So obviously, not much to talk about this on the franchise side of things. Do you think, other than I guess I'll bring that. Do you think the first movie demanded a sequel in any way, shape, or form?
Maybe in a shape.
Strictly from the fact that it was a team, I feel like that's the only reason.
Did the Avengers demand a sequel?
It's
I would
just,
say yes.
I think
Exactly.
strictly from the fact that people enjoyed seeing a heist that would bring on a sequel. I don't think
Yeah.
plot-wise it really demanded one.
Yeah.
It's just, it would be fun to see a second.
I will say there's a slight difference in our perception of this movie now versus then, because this was an ensemble cast, and I think if you put it to today's standards, it would be like Fast and Furious, where you have all these big names showing up and you're like, oh yeah, that person. And sure, it's like a big massive entertainment and maybe you could criticize a number of aspects of it. It's really fun in the moment.
Yeah.
So
I think the difference between this and Fast and Furious is that Fast and Furious knows its audience.
That's true.
This one doesn't really. It's kind of floundering a little with what it needs to have.
Do you know what I just realized? And I actually didn't just realize this, but most Fast and Furious movies are heist movies.
Yeah, they are.
Especially 5, I think.
Yeah.
Oh, especially 5.
5 is a big heist.
The first one definitely isn't a heist.
It's got heist elements to it.
Well,
I wouldn't call it a heist movie.
The thing that you're comparing, the movies you're comparing them to are all, often said they're formulaic movies. Like the MCU movies follow formulas, the Fast movies follow formulas. The heist movie in Oceans, ostensibly would follow formulas, and you cash in on that formula. 12 did not follow the formula of the first, and I think that's probably what its failure was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
At least financially.
I don't think... Yeah, I literally only think the reason this is a franchise is because of money. I don't think there was any artistic reason to make a second one.
Yeah.
Other than, maybe Steven Soderbergh just being like, I got another idea, and this first one was a big hit, and let's see if we can keep this gravy train rolling.
Yeah.
And it'll make Logan lucky.
Yeah.
Another heist movie.
I wonder if he thought that was going to be like the successor to Oceans, and it just kind of fizzled.
Didn't happen.
Even though it's a very well-regarded movie, people like it a lot. It just didn't make money. But yeah, Oceans 13 is what we're covering next week.
Guys, we have to watch Italian Job to wipe the taste out of our mouth at the end of this.
I'm already kind of done with heist movies,
Dude,
to be honest.
Italian Job, though. That's a good movie.
You'd have to watch the original too, and then the new one.
No, you don't.
Yeah,
Come on,
we didn't watch the original for this one.
It's not the case with it's not the case with Ocean's
but
11
we
where
didn't
the
do a review
original
on
is not very good. Like the original Italian Job is
highly regarded.
All right,
classic.
fair enough. I would have no problem with watching that. But
well, maybe later. We'll definitely get around to Italian Job.
Can we just watch 9 Fast and Furious movies instead?
I would
Oh,
like that.
gosh.
And Hobbs and Shaw, don't forget.
I'm not
yeah.
ready for it.
I haven't seen it. Anyways, we should get on with it.
Yeah,
Sorry
so
for the
Get on with it.
Next week, Ocean's 13. You can find our podcast on all streaming apps. We release episodes every Wednesday, bright and early. Moment you look at your phone, you'll have a new episode downloaded if you subscribe and follow and do all that good stuff.
You
wherever.
wake up in the morning, look at your phone, and
You
there's
say-
a little notification. Oh my God!
It's a new
Franchise
episode
killer.
of Franchise Killer. Oh, they're covering Now You See Me.
That's our new ad.
Skip
We
to the
need
next
that
one.
on all the on everything. Oh my god!
Oh my
Everyone's
God.
gonna be quoting that.
My berries.
So we're most active on our Instagram, where David posts pretty frequently.
I do some stuff.
Yep. We've also got a Spotify with all the various tracks from the music of the movies. Although I can imagine this one's probably going to be kind of difficult for you, AJ.
Yeah,
come
I've
up
got
with
a
some
bit of
songs.
catching up to do anyway, so.
Yeah. You can listen to music on there. Just type in Franchise Killer. It's on there as well. Any other closing notes, guys?
Can you like, comment, subscribe, ring
did say
that
that.
bell that we don't have?
I do believe I said that. Did I say that?
I don't know.
You need more calls to
it's all-
action.
You need an
You
echo.
asked
Hey,
me what I wanted, and that's
next
what
time
I say.
echo him.
Okay, just be like his shadow. Got it.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Goodbye.
Bye.
When I was 8 years old, I watched my mother kill a spider with a tea cozy. Years later, I realized it was not a spider. It was my Uncle Harold.